At this time, I'd welcome Wendy Hayden to speak to us. Thank you very much.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you for coming. It's a nice crowd. It's my pleasure today to talk to you about the NIAC claims administration system. So, nuclear liability claims are completely unique because they combine the most challenging aspects of both like a catastrophe type claim, a class action claim, and a casualty claim. With the implementation of the Nuclear Liability and Compensation Act, increasing the limits of liability to $1 billion for operators, NIAC initiated a claims administration project to review and enhance existing claims handling services and create an innovative process to effectively handle an emergency evacuation type scenario. Our initial objectives in the project was that we wanted it to be scalable depending on the incident, and that was really a fundamental importance. We wanted our claims to be responsive and transparent to members, to the operators, to stakeholders, and especially to the claimants. We wanted to define this new process. So that means we wanted to write it down. We wanted to have management reporting and auditing to increase the governance requirements from all of our pool members, because as the pool in NIAC, we were asking them to commit more capacity, and we were also asking new pool members to join with large capacity. So we wanted to make sure that all of our practices for our members had the information and the business case they could to put the capacity up that they have done. We also wanted this system to be cost-effective and streamlined. And part of the reason for that is that in the Nuclear Liability and Compensation Act, the cost of claims expense is responsibility of the operator, and it's outside the limit of liability. So it's really important to make sure that we're not spending $100 to pay a $100 claim. We also wanted to update our call for funds policy and procedures, both internally and, as it turned out, externally, because again, these are big dollars, and we wanted to make sure that they got into the trust fund as soon as possible so that we could start the delivery of the claims process. And we also wanted the structure to be adaptable for other stakeholders other than NIAC, and I'll talk more about that later. So one of the first things we did was we created a NIAC claims committee. And the claims committee is made up of NIAC members, and these people here are claims experts in the insurance industry. So, you know, the people that Colleen and I deal with mostly on a day-to-day basis come from an underwriting background, but these people have spent their careers in insurance. So when we were talking about the objectives and going through all of the things we needed to do to come up with a new innovative claims process, the people that we were working through this with were the people who are the leaders in our insurance industry. We've asked them to review and discuss our existing process and come up with a new process, and every rock was unturned. It was over a year process of just sitting down and discussing step by step what the process could look like, and we did that before we even started to write a procedural manual or a process on it. It was really fundamental. And at the time when we were doing this was right around the time of Fort McMurray. So some of our members were calling in for our meetings, and they were calling in from Fort McMurray. So if anyone has experience in how to deal with day-to-day current evacuation type scenarios, it's these people here. The first year, as I said, we were just discussing and investigating the options that were available, and the level of detail was deep. The following year, what we did was we took this information and we created a NIAC claims manual. We worked with Crawford Canada and Paul Hancock to come up with a claims agreement for third-party adjuster services. We put together a stakeholder claims guide for other stakeholders, such as our operators, such as even our competitors. We put together a claims administration agreement working with the operators and detailed on what this process would look like and what the engagement and collaboration would be. And we created a new claims website, and that website also includes client intake capabilities, and I'll go into that later on in the presentation. And finally, what we put together is a social media network strategy. So that's why I call this a claims administration system, because it's more than just our process, it's more than just a claims manual, it's an end-to-end on what we feel we need to do to be responsive to claimants in the event of an incident. So let's talk about the NIAC Claims Manual. It was created for NIAC members. The first part of the manual provides information on NIAC and the internal roles and responsibilities that we've established for claims administration. The manual also contains information about how NIAC fits in the context of government emergency plans. The essential part of the claims manual is the implementation of the NIAC claims response plans. Following notification of an incident, the NIAC team would get together and develop an initial incident assessment. This process has been designed to promote scalability and response, and also used for communication to our adjusters, to our members, and other stakeholders, including call for funds. Next, there was a process with our other stakeholders, the operators, co-insurer, other third-party payors. Detailed adjuster instructions have been prepared in terms of handling the claims. And these claims, as I say, are unique to nuclear liability. So that's why the incident assessment and also the third-party adjuster instructions that we created are specific to nuclear liability claims and the NLCA. And monitoring on auditing at the onset and ongoing were also established and put into our manual and what we would be reporting on and that kind of thing. Hand in hand is the third-party adjuster services agreement. This was a very complex agreement that was tailored with Crawford Canada to specifically meet NIAC's needs, okay? I'm often asked, I was in Europe at the end of January, and some of my colleagues were asking me, why do you use Crawford? Why do you use a TPA? And it's my belief that we cannot generate the expertise alone. We have to partnership strategically with the people who know their business best, have the skills, and those skills will continue to grow as time goes on. And we feel that the process that we've created is a dynamic one, in part because we've partnered with valued partners such as Crawford Canada. Our service agreement involves multiple aspects of the claims handling process. This agreement was negotiated and services provided that will quicken response time in dealing with claimants and offer efficient claims expense savings for high-frequency, low-touch claims. The Stakeholder Claims Guide is intended for external use by other various stakeholders. In the Stakeholder Guide, they provide a brief background of the nuclear liability regime. We also give an overview of the NIAC Claims Administration System and information for call to action should an incident occur. As mentioned earlier, there are two phases to NIAC's claims recovery plan, and the emphasis has been on the emergency claims phase, such as an evacuation. Okay. So this is an example of an engagement sort of process that NIAC and the NIAC claims process would go through in dealing with the various stakeholders should an incident occur, and this is the initial emergency phase. So over here in the little red dot, that's the first indication that there is an emergency, okay, an incident that's happened. So the orange boxes represent governments. The gray boxes represent our operators, and the blue boxes represent basically NIAC and NIAC's team. So once we find out about an incident, we would collect information from the government about notification and things that they know. We would get also information from the operator, and our NIAC team would engage to sit down and figure out what, over here, the initial assessment. And as I said before, we would go through this process to try and determine what the scalability would be, what are we going to have to do over the next 24 hours, 48 hours, so that we could put that together, almost like a checklist, if you will, and start to communicate that. That would go to the adjusters for Crawford to start engaging, but would also deal with all of the other stakeholders. And this green dot here represents that sort of connection. From there, we would decide if we would actually be proceeding to a claim and start the process of setting up the claims administration. Here would be the call for funds, and once that would be funded, it would be ready to start looking at paying claims for claimants, and we would continue to collect information from the government, from the operators, and keep that loop going until the end of the emergency phase. We figure that the emergency phase may be 2 weeks, maybe 2 months, maybe 6 months, but it's not going to be the full length of the response, okay? This is a little schematic of what would happen in the second recovery phase. So after that emergency phase has completed, then what happens with the rest of the claims? And those claims will tend to be the larger claims, the ones that take longer to settle. And they will be settled more or less in a more traditional way of handling claims. So you would get the claim, you'd start investigating it, you would take in your experts, both from the operators, from the government, plus maybe accountants, maybe scientists, anyone that you would need to get the right information to investigate and help settle the claim. We would meet with the Nuclear Claims Committee, which I'll explain in a moment, call for funds, deposit the money in the trust account, pay the claim here. Once the claims got to a certain limit because of the limits of liability, we would be notifying the government that we were getting close to the end of our limits of liability, and they may wish to initiate a trust fund. So that's that spot down there, any connection about what's happening with the overall process of the claims. So those are, in a very high-level way, just to sort of explain what's the difference between the emergency evacuation type scenario that we spent a lot of time on, but also we didn't forget about the traditional claims administration process. All of the large operators requested that NIAC provide centralized claims administration. And NIAC has agreed, subject to the claims administration agreement. It's an annual agreement negotiated with each operator in conjunction with the renewal. And the Claims Administration Agreement introduces the Nuclear Claims Committee as an integral part of centralizing claims administration and collaboration following an incident. This committee has representatives from NIAC, the operators, and all other payors. So this is what, because NIAC is a pool of insurers and reinsurers, we're not like one insurance company. And so that's kind of, our internal structure is a little unique. What we've tried to do is create a structure for everyone. So this is NIAC's internal structure for handling claims, right? At the boots on the ground, we have the third-party adjuster, which handles the execution part and deal with the claimants. So we are expecting a very high frequency, so our adjuster services have the capabilities to be able to provide a response to claimants calling in and needing attention. From an escalation point of view, we have the role of the claims coordinator, and that in the back of the room is Jim Cameron from Cameron & Associates, who is NIAC's claims coordinator, and he basically acts as our claims manager, okay? Providing his expertise and supporting Crawford for claims as for an escalation. Here is our claims committee, and they act like our head office claims department. So when an issue comes up that needs to be discussed, whether it's a high quantum claim or whether it's a class action type of request that we've received, then the escalation procedures have been set up so that it would channel up through to the NIAC Claims Committee. And after that, we have our governing committee, which is like our board of directors. So if things need to go up the chain, then that basically is our route, okay? On the side here is NIAC management. That's more or less Colleen and me, and we support the whole system. But we do try to keep an arm's length because we're more on the underwriting side, and we don't want to mix that with the claims handling. So I mentioned the Nuclear Claims Committee. Because of the centralized claims administration with operators and other payors, the Nuclear Claims Committee has been created so that all stakeholders are involved in the process and the information exchange following an incident. So the chair of the committee is NIAC, and the voting members are all of the insurers that are involved with the operator's insurance program for nuclear liability. As well, we will also bring in other people. They won't have voting, but they will also provide their expertise and help make the best decisions possible provided an incident. So this would be government agencies, claims administration, NGOs such as maybe Red Cross, and other specialists. This is our claims settlement authority. As you can see, it's pretty traditional, where we've assigned a limit to our adjusters. It will be escalated to our claims coordinator and escalated to the NIAC Claims Committee. Over here, what we have is in an emergency situation phase, if we're presented with an extremely large claim that's going to take time to investigate, time to settle, we're going to parking lot that during the evacuation phase and settle that when we reach the recovery phase. So that's what that represents over here. For our multiple claims, both in terms of number and quantum, we will also then engage the Nuclear Claims Committee to make decisions on the claims and understanding. We'll work for consensus in order to get the claims paid as promptly as possible and have everybody informed. So this is, I'm going to walk through quickly. This is the NIAC Claims website. It's what we call a dark site. It will not be open until there is a claim. And what we've done is this website was created by Crawford for us, and we use the information both from our NIAC Claims Committee as well as Henderson Robb, our marketing and communications consultants, to put together the content to come up with this dark site. So this is an update section, and this would be for information for claimants getting on to take a look at it if they wanted to have information. It's a pretty static page, but it's an important one. If you're looking for, quick information, it would be directed more to the social media strategy, but this will have like important information that'll be up on the website that people can access. This is probably the focus of the claim site. This is the claims intake part of our claims website. And this is the part that's quite unique because it's not just a claims dark site, but it's also the initial process to start working on and handling the claim, okay? So what we have here is we have, at the top, there's like eligibility requirements of a claimant. It's not eligibility like having to prove their loss, but they have to prove that they're eligible, they're in the zone, that kind of thing. And we spent a lot of time trying to figure out what was the right type of information, and we worked with the Ontario emergency response people in terms of what kind of information do they collect so that we wouldn't be asking claimants for different types of things than that what they would be providing in an emergency response situation. Okay, so we didn't really want overlap, but we didn't want to confuse the thing by asking a whole bunch of different questions, okay? And I have a whole, I don't want to bore you, but I have a whole hour on how we manage our intake. So if you're interested in that, come and see me afterwards. But basically, a claimant would fill this information out and submit a claim, and it would go directly into the Crawford system, and an incident would be reported, and they would get feedback. The claimant would get feedback instantly after they've submitted a claim. And this part is the responsiveness aspect that we were looking for as our objective. And we've tested it, it works, and it's very unique. I've talked to a lot of the other pools around, and they're all excited about, what we've managed to put together. Okay. So what you won't see today, though, is the high caliber that Crawford brings to the table in terms of their claims database, in terms of handling the claim and managing that, being able to do the auditing functions on it. But the other really fantastic part is their IQ portal. And their IQ portal can create management reports that are done on a daily basis, on a monthly basis, a weekly basis, however you want it. And it's very robust, it's very dynamic, and it's going to be really a wonderful tool if we have to manage this process. Of course, I'll say right from the front, we're doing all of this, but we never expect to have one of these incidents, because we'll work on the other side with the operators to make sure that never happens. But if it does, we're ready. We created a frequently asked questions section, and it's been tailored so 10 quick questions that people would ask, and you drop down and the answers are there. We also have in the questions being able to direct them back to, yes, I do want, now that I've got this answer, I do want to present a claim, so you can click and get back to the claimant intake application as quickly as possible. And we created a section for the operators. We're working with the operators and asking them that if they want to create their own page to put on there, then get that done. We're still working on that with them so that we would be able to tailor it to their individual needs. So our intake site acts as an online application to report a claim and electronically connects the claimant information to the adjuster's claims database. And why is this important? Because that's what's going to provide a quick response, which will be the benefit to the claimant, but it will also reduce claims expense, and that will be an advantage both to our members and to the operators. As I said, because the operator's responsibility for claims expense. Okay. And finally, we recognize that social media will be extremely important part of our claims administration process. And I have a little video clip on social media I'd like to show you now.
In recent years, we have witnessed natural disasters in Canada and around the world. In each case, ensuing events resulted in mass evacuations. As evidenced by the wildfires in Fort McMurray in 2016 and the wildfires in British Columbia and California in 2017, social media played a significant role in helping people manage a relatively smooth and safe evacuation. We learned from these experiences that having a social media strategy is not a nice thing to have, but a must-have to manage evacuations. It was plainly evident in Houston, Texas, with the unprecedented natural disaster of Hurricane Harvey, that the absence of a social media strategy added to and prolonged the chaos once the storm made landfall. The evacuation of Houston was not as well executed as it could have been with a social media strategy in place. The lessons learned in Houston helped the residents of southern Florida when Hurricane Irma hit the Sunshine State, as local authorities had a social media strategy in place. Over 1 million people were evacuated ahead of Irma's landfall and helped to minimize the potential chaos that would have resulted. While Florida had the benefit of new infrastructure that was in place after Hurricane Andrew in 1992, social media helped people manage the evacuation along these new escape routes. With the learning we have from monitoring these natural disasters, we understand and appreciate how the local authorities, insurance bureaus, and the public were able to better manage evacuations using a concerted social media effort. We designed our NIAC Claims Stakeholder Social Media Network with all of this in mind. Our mandate is to collaborate with all stakeholders to support our NIAC Claims website with a social media network that runs in real time in perpetuity. The operative words for the NIAC social media network are prepare and plan. We know that having a social media network in place will enable everyone concerned to create and control the message instead of playing catch-up. Each stakeholder brings their shared social media engagements to NIAC, and NIAC brings all stakeholders' shared social media to each stakeholder. Our social media dashboard is a visualization of how stakeholders connect to NIAC social media platforms and in turn connect to the media and claimants. We will use password-protected Hootsuite, a social media management platform that is used by over 15 million people around the world and trusted by more than 800 of the Fortune 1000 companies, including PayPal and Visa, to manage NIAC's social media network and schedule effective social media content. Using Hootsuite, NIAC will direct queries from the claimants, media, and the public on particular emergency response posts to designated social media team members. With NIAC.biz as our hub, we will share our content just the way you do now in business or personal situations, using hashtags and linking profiles. Our social media network has all the tools we need to create and manage our content from a single dashboard in a safe and secure environment. Our robust message approvals and permissions workflows guards against internal risks. Our profile protection and access control will guard against hackers and other external threats. NIAC currently maintains a website using many of the most widely used social media platforms. This is what our site looks like in the event of a nuclear incident, alerting the public and redirecting them to the NIAC Claims website. Simple but clear. Using Facebook to demonstrate a real-time example, you can see how our site will change from dark to live. In addition to the header changing, the pre-made messages we have archived will begin posting, and we will redirect visitors to the NIAC Claims site. Once an event occurs, our social media network will allow each team that is collaborating with us to quickly find and schedule social content that is relevant to our audiences and measure its impact, all on a single, secure platform. As stakeholders, we have many common goals we share, but our number one goal is the well-being, safety, and health of the public. Ultimately, we will all be working to meet our number one goal: community resilience. We will be testing our social media network's functionality by creating, curating, archiving, and sharing valuable, actionable content with our team members across all platforms using the leading social media platform in the world. NIAC's social media network will evolve with input from our stakeholders and partners. NIAC Claims Administration is a cycle of innovation, and as technology evolves, so will our stakeholder social media network. Together, we will be creating a secure, reliable network we can all be proud of.
So just in closing, we started off internally, and we have a formidable amount of expertise in our NIAC Claims Committee. And then from there, we branched out and partnered with people we feel are the experts in claims handling, in claims administration, and put together in a revised and enhanced claims process. But we didn't stop there. We've also taken that, and we have spent a considerable amount of time working with the operators and creating a process that branches out and involves all payors, not just NIAC. And we've also taken that additional step to create a claims website that is responsive and provides the ability for claimants to make a claim quickly and easily. And we've also created the social media for the communications of that, so to bring them to a source where they can be dealt with as quickly as possible. So that's why I call this not just a claims administration process, but it's really a system. And there's a lot of moving parts, and there's been a lot of attention given to each of those parts. And the other thing about this claims administration system is that we've worked on this so that we intend that this is a dynamic process. There's going to be aspects of all aspects changing over the years, and this is going to grow with it, both in terms of social media, both in reporting, and even just the way we handle claims and pay claims to claimants. It's the idea of, you know, Colleen used to have a box of drafts underneath her desk in case she needed to send out checks, and now we're looking at, you know, electronic transfer. And we know that as we move forward with all the different technologies that are coming, that we have to keep on top of this so that we're ready whatever happens. Thank you very much.